All right, so we are live once again, and in style and custom, that is the way we do things here. All right, all right, all right. Welcome back, my regular viewers, listeners, and watchers. And of course, if you happen to be here for the very first time, welcome. Before I go any further, my name is Rahul George, India's premier iHypnosis coach and your personal guide. And for those of you who've been regular listeners, especially, and maybe even watchers to the pod, our pod is called the iHypnosis Coaching Journeys. You would have noticed that we've been away for probably about 2 months at the time of this recording. But when you put something good out there, or when you put good out there, there's a lot of good that comes back. And the guest on our show today is to me is testament to this belief that when you truly intend to do good things, you want to put things and good things out there, they will come back manifold. So I'm of course talking about Manchal, uh, my friend, and we've connected on so many levels over the last, I should say, about a year now almost. And of course, Manchal, this is your cue, so you can definitely turn on your camera. And I must say that firstly, welcome, Manchal. Um,
Hi,
it's
Rahul. Thank you for
always
having me.
a pleasure to meet you. And as I was saying, the in large part, that little nudge from the universe came through my conversation with Manchal. And the next thing I knew it, we had fixed the slot for today's pod. So thank you so much um, for connecting the way you do. And in fact, we will be talking a lot about the power of intention, uh, the power of healing, the power of truly being able to empower other people, and how that makes such a big difference, not only in other people's lives but in our own. So, without further ado, firstly, as I said before, welcome, Manchal. It is really good to have you here. And
Thank you.
maybe we'll
Honored to be
start.
here.
We'll start at the very beginning, and you know, do tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and then of course we'll go deeper into your story.
Awesome. So, just to give you a brief introduction, I'm Manchal Kalra and I am an emotional freedom techniques coach. It's not something that I've always done as a profession. So, I've only gotten into it
Mm,
like a few years ago due to my personal journey. Like I said, we'll just go there a little later.
mm,
So I was teaching French. I was a French teacher for more than a decade. So I taught in a lot of schools
mm,
and colleges, and I spent an academic year in France
mm.
teaching as an English assistant in French high schools,
Nice.
which was an experience on its own. And yeah, French was literally like I ate, lived, and breathed French for more than a
Mm,
decade. And as we always talk about, you and I, the universe has its own plans and divine timing, right? So
right,
I
right.
always say that EFT tapping chose me. Damn, I chose it. So
Yes.
it literally, like
Mm,
when I say it, it's surreal now because it's 3 4 years ago that was 2021. So whenever that was, it was like in the middle of the night where
mm,
it was 3 or 4 a.m., which is the Brahma Muhurta time, right? The morning. I got this, like, I saw this divine light. So even now, when I talk about the story, I'm just like, whoa, did that really happen? It felt so real, and it really did. Like, there's divine light
mm,
coming through and telling me this is what you should be doing because you've been healing yourself with, the depression that I had, the anxiety, the panic attacks, and whole bunch of physical health issues. I
right.
always say that I was trapped in my own mind
Mm,
and body. I felt like I was a prisoner of my own thoughts and mind and body. And
mm,
like, it was just like, I can't do this anymore. And EFT tapping, because it's a somatic tool, I'll talk about that later. It's a body based technique. I could use the
mm,
mind body connection and finally get to the root of everything that was going wrong for so long. And then the
mm,
universe, just with that divine light, said, this is what you should be doing. This is your calling. This is what you're meant to do. And from there the
right.
journey began, and I trained and certified with
Wow.
Jennifer Partridge to become an EFT coach.
Mm,
The brief, yeah.
amazing. Amazing. Yeah, you know, it's when I hear it's like, so I've come to this point in my life where I see people like us as healer coaches, right? Where healing is something that we lead with, but it's not just the healing; it's also the coaching, right? And when I hear stories like the way you shared it, it always the way you shared your life story, it always reminds me that um, there's so much that we go through, but it's like it's really hard sometimes for words to be able to like describe what actually we went through, over 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, whatever was that journey that we were on to get to this point, especially when you've found a medium, a method, something to be able to make that shift in your life.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful to hear how, in a couple of sentences you've been able to summarize it to the point where you're like, yeah, like, this is what I do, and possibly even has reflections on who you are. So what I'd love for you to do and share with our viewers, listeners, and watchers is, um, like, before you got to this point where you had that moment of the Brahma Muhurtam, right? What was the journey like for you? Because to me, that's one of the questions that I find really really powerful. It's like it's almost like that Neo moment, right, in the Matrix, where we are all kind of lost and asleep and just kind of going along or dragging along or something, but then there's that one moment, and then the way you described what happened after. So I'd love for you to share, what was that like for you?
Do you mean before this I got into EFT
mm,
tapping? Is that
mm,
what you want to know? Like
mm,
my
mm,
just like
mm.
my life journey?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's funny that you said that. Like even the word that you said, medium, right? Like that I found a medium.
mm,
I always say that I
yeah.
found the medium, and now I am the medium that uses the medium to kind
Yes.
of like
Beautiful.
help people.
Yeah, yeah.
Just the
I'm
channel,
with you.
the facilitator. It's
I get
through
it.
me,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I always say like the
Yes, yes,
divine
yes.
flow to and
Yeah.
through me, literally, even when I do this work, because a lot of it is
Yep.
intuitive. You know
Beautiful.
that, like with
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
clients,
Oh yeah.
because you're meeting them and you know what they're going through, but
Yeah.
you're just a medium. You're like helping them help themselves, basically, and already what's
Yes,
inside of them
yes.
is coming up. So
Yeah,
before that, it's
yeah, yeah.
funny why I say this, why I tying this point back to is I was doing some
Mm,
cleaning and
mm,
decluttering. I always do that when I want a little energy
mm,
shift. Like I always declutter stuff.
mm,
And I remember that I had this huge file of all my certificates, right? And I was into personal
mm,
development when I was 18 and 19. And so it's funny
mm,
if I describe my life
mm.
between 20 and I'm almost 38 now. So like between
Yeah,
21 to 38, 30, no, I'd say 35, when I discovered all of this,
yeah,
again went back
yeah,
to the inner
yeah,
work, the
yeah, yeah.
personal development.
Yes,
That whole period
yes, yes, yes.
was like a blind spot in my life. Like I was like
Mm,
lost, like you said. And I did
mm,
this NLP workshop with Ashlesh Rao in 2008,
mm,
with Rajiv
mm,
Talreja. He had organized it with Quantum Leap, and I was looking
mm.
through those
Okay,
certificates,
interesting.
and I was supposed to do the one like the follow up one, but I didn't end up doing it. And I was reading
Mm,
The Power of
mm,
the Subconscious Mind. I was reading Unlimited Power by
mm.
Tony Robbins, and I was
Right.
breaking tiles in that workshop where we wrote all our limiting beliefs. And we like I couldn't do the brick for some reason. He tried to make us do the
Right.
brick, but I was like,
Right.
hey, I'm not there yet. I could just do the tiles. So I still have them somewhere, like a half broken tile with
Wow.
my limiting beliefs.
Oh wow.
um, literally, like, he makes you do that. And you're the NLP coach, so you know this better than I do.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's all just from the past, and projecting it on the screen and things like that.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
was so beautiful
yeah, yeah.
how the subconscious works.
Mm,
Where I read Unlimited Power, I
mm,
read James Clear, I read Atomic Habits, and I had this whole journey, Freud and stuff like that. And
yeah.
then life happened, and like literally, I
Mm,
got consumed by life. Like, so much stuff happened, and I'm like, it's a
mm,
circle. When I always say it circles back, you and I have talked about that as well. That period was
right.
the dark, or that period was like I had to go
Mm,
through that to get to this, and then life
yeah,
circled back, and
yeah.
everything sort of just fell together. And I still remember that NLP technique I learned when I was 19 years old, where we projected our emotions on the screen and then we
Wow.
changed the color and things like that. And I was like, I
Right.
always was fascinated by this stuff. And then life
Huh.
happened, and I found myself in controlled
Mm,
environments or stifled environments, and a lot of things that happened, and which led to the depression ultimately. So that whole period was
mm,
me living from the outside in, is how I describe it. And now I always
wow.
know when things are wrong around me. I always like, how can I work on my energy? How can I work on my vibration? How can I work on my frequency?
Right.
Where can I work on those things? Where can I question
It's
myself?
like the
And so
inside
once
out
you've
versus the outside in, right?
Exactly, exactly. So I was
Nice,
still in the
nice.
outside in even when I was reading all that stuff. Just that it was
Of
fascinating,
course,
the
of course.
mind, the body, and but then I
Yeah, yeah,
wasn't embodying it. It was just
yeah.
stuff I was
Oh yeah,
consuming, but I wasn't embodying it,
oh yeah,
literally.
yeah.
So like there was a
Mm,
separation, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I was
Beautiful.
meant to come back to this and then go deeper into the
Yeah. Oh
personal
yeah.
development, and then it
Mm,
just becomes like now it's me. It's a part of me.
yeah.
So
Exactly. It's yeah. I completely get what you're saying because I've found myself in the last maybe year or 2 years talking more on the lines of what you're saying, which is the it's flowing through me rather than I am doing the
yeah,
process, right? Like, okay, I know the
yeah,
technique, but like earlier, it would have been like, say, I'm sure you might have had this experience where initially you were doing the process, you were changing the light or the color or making it still or make it move or like the basically the
yeah.
submodality shifts, right? um,
Mm.
so that's more of like the doing. This it's beautiful to hear you like literally talking about the previous 18 years and then these now 4 5 plus years of literally like now being the beer rather than the doer, which was that first phase.
Still a work in progress, but yes, more of the
Of
being
course, of
than
course,
the
of
doer.
course.
Yes, work in progress for sure.
It's like how I like to look at this is the what we're doing here is like now and it's just the being that you get to be for the rest of your life,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So
the
it's never
awareness.
over.
Once you're in the awareness, you'll never go back.
Exactly,
It's like something you can't undo. You can't get.
exactly,
Once you're in the
exactly.
awareness, now I know I will
Yeah.
question my belief. I will question my
Mm,
conditioning. I will look at where I need
mm.
to heal. Earlier, it would just be like everything's messed up. Why is this
Right,
happening? And now it's like, where can
right.
I take responsibility? Where can
Yeah,
I find
nice.
tune my frequency? So yeah, it
Mm,
is an awareness. That is
mm,
the most
mm,
powerful shift. That is where the empowerment comes in, like
mm,
where you go, what can
mm.
I do about this? This has happened.
Yeah,
Now what can I
yeah.
do?
Beautiful. So I think this is the part where, like, one of the reasons why even the pod is called the iHypnosis coaching journeys is there's something in your own journey that, like a couple of lines or like a minute or two, it's hard to be able to draw from it, you know, the the magic or the like in my one of my avatars of way back when I was in advertising, they had this concept or this expression of the crunch and the breakthrough, right? So if you were like trying to crack a line for a campaign, an advertising campaign, they had one of these strategic things which was like, what's the crunch and what's the breakthrough, right?
Right.
What I want to definitely ask you to share is when you finally started to go deeper in these last couple of years, right? What what is it actually like? It's like when you have that moment and then you start to change, like what's actually happening inside?
Well, to put it simply, it is again
Mm-hmm.
like I think the awareness where you kind of catch yourself, like when you've known you've
Mm.
worked through old patterns. I just want to know if I've got the question right. Would you mind just like
Uh-huh.
repeating that for me so I know I'm uh, answering to
So
what
it's like
you've.
saying, no, no, absolutely. So it's like saying there's that moment where something clicks,
Yeah,
right? And then what happens after that? Because a lot of times that becomes second nature to us, and then it's hard to like talk about what were those like specific moments after that where like, oh yeah, I noticed that I was saying it one way, but let me be more present. And then
right.
that
So
starts to stack
that's
up over a period of time.
okay. So for me, that
Hmm.
honestly is the realization that I need to process
Hmm.
emotions because I don't think I knew how to do that
Ah,
regulation, emotional regulation or processing. And I
right,
think everything
right.
happens from there. When you talk about manifestation,
Hmm.
you talk about healing, you talk about
Hmm.
anything, when we choose to be
Hmm.
conscious creators of our reality. And I'm someone who believes in karma. Again, that's a choice. There are people who believe in it who don't. For
Hmm.
me, karma and dharma
Hmm.
are two things that I believe in. And so I believe in conscious manifestation because we're always manifesting 24 hours. But you and I
Yeah.
both know there's
Yeah.
conscious manifestation where we are with our thoughts, our intentions, our
Hmm. Hmm.
frequency, with that aura that we emit, we can, choose the reality we want. But there are certain
Hmm.
things that happen in life, like let's say we're talking about an illness or we're talking about something else that ties
Hmm.
for me into karma. And I realized that when those kind of
Hmm.
things happen, or even in general everyday day-to-day life, if
Hmm.
I didn't know how to process and regulate my emotions, so two things that I
Hmm.
think I were the catalyst to whatever happened to me finally, how I ended up that ill physically, mentally, in all of those
Hmm.
spaces, was where either I would suppress the emotions or I would use coping
Hmm.
mechanisms, not healthy ones for sure, or I would be
Hmm.
escaping them or I would be numbing them. So,
Hmm.
like most of the
Hmm.
times, like whether it was watching too much Netflix or just so never going back. I think it's built from there. Every moment that I realized that
Hmm.
I could regulate and process my emotions in a healthy
Hmm.
way and transmute them through my body, I knew I would at least
Hmm.
not carry that pain. So it's like a scar, right? If
Right.
I mean, not a scar, a
Hmm.
wound that never heals, that you
Hmm.
just keep kind
Hmm.
of, it keeps getting hurt. And that's from our childhood, the stuff that we carry. So
Right.
that gets amplified
Hmm.
when something similar happens. So I've learned
Hmm.
that emotional regulation and processing is probably like the superpower, and that's what has helped me,
Hmm.
that moment that I can choose,
Hmm.
I can choose. Yes, I'm feeling this, but right
Wow.
now I can choose something different. And how do I choose? I
Nice.
allow myself to cry. I won't be like, oh, I'm supposed to be an emotional regulation coach or emotional freedoms coach, or I know emotional freedom
Right.
techniques, so I can't have feelings. I am here to experience the whole spectrum of human emotions,
Uh-huh.
and life is such that I will experience them. I have, and I will continue to. My superpower will lie in how much I'm able to regulate and process easily, so that I don't
Hmm.
even make it a part of my karma, because I deeply believe in that. Because
Hmm.
if I carry that in my
Hmm.
sanskara, I don't want to go into a whole tangent here
Hmm.
because I don't
Yeah.
know, but yeah, I don't want to make that a
Why
part of
not?
my, yeah, literally like my
Right.
samskara, and as well as like my energy. I just say energy, right? That's the simplest
Hmm.
word I can use.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 Hmm. Nice. You used a word which I know has like, from what, just listening to you, the way you're saying it, I know the word regulate means something, right?
Yeah.
So could you share a little bit more about that? Because my intention is also for people listening that they're able to take away, it's like, oh yeah, this micro technique works for Manchal. Maybe it might work for me. So like like when you say regulate, could you kind of expand, like to use the the language of the cool kids is like, can you double click on that word regulate? Like, what do you mean in more sort of like specific terms, or as an example, like, okay, this means now I'm
Yeah.
like regulating.
Right. So I used to be a really angry person. I would react like
Mm,
that. Somebody said something, my husband, my father, my sister, my sibling, anybody, I would be quick to react. So regulation is where you
mm,
can take space and time for yourself to sit down with
mm,
how you feel, because it's always about how you feel. Doesn't necessarily,
mm,
you can't point and say, he made me feel that way, she made me feel like that,
mm,
he said this, so I felt like that. So the ability to
mm,
regulate yourself is to come from a very neutral space and a neutral energy. So, okay, your husband said something, or your sister or your father said something which triggered you. What is your trigger? Your trigger is telling you,
mm,
yes, it is a full possibility that they really did say something that mean, but also when you're in that
yeah.
space of being able to
Mm,
self regulate, you take some time off, whether it is even quickly in your mind. Sometimes I really don't get the time to go off into another room and sit with myself, breathe, like breathe
right,
a lot, do a lot of deep breathing and say,
right.
this person said this
uh,
triggered me. Let me see if there's something in
mm,
me or my past that is bringing up more of this emotion. Why did I get that angry?
mm,
Was I meant to get that angry? Was it really something that they said, or like, let's say somebody called me a name or said something really mean? So was it justified that
mm,
how do I go back and respond to that? I have two choices. I can just
right.
yell right there and just really like,
Mm,
you know, blow off steam, and that's not going to make either of us feel
mm,
good, and we're not going to leave that space feeling good, and we're just going to create another
mm,
kind of energy and amplify that energy, and that fight will
right.
continue or the argument will continue or whatever. Or I
Mm,
can choose to take a step
right.
back and take a few deep breaths
Mm,
and come into a more neutral space and understand how can I respond and how can I say
mm,
something in this situation that can cool off and ease off. We can still address this point. If I have an issue with my spouse or my sister or my
mm,
dad or whoever, I can address this point. I can be
right.
like, hey, I don't agree, or this was
Mm,
not right, or whatever. Or, I felt this way. And even using the my
mm,
I feel statements was a big shift for me. I used to always be like, I can't believe
nice.
that, you never do this. The never statements, the always statements, the very, what are they called?
Oh,
The never and the always statements. In NLP, there is a term, the
right.
generic thing, where we say,
Mm,
you're
mm,
always late, and
mm,
you always make me angry when you're always late. So
right.
rather than that, it's more like, I get upset when you show up late. And when that happens
Mm,
very often, that makes me really upset. So just the change. So
mm,
the energy is
right.
neutral, where you're not attacking the other person,
Mm,
and the other
mm,
person doesn't get defensive if you're not attacking them. And instead of going like that, they go like, okay, they calm
right.
down and they're like, okay, so she's upset. Instead of me
Right.
saying, you made me upset,
Right.
you came really late, and they're just gonna be like, yo, I'm out of here.
Right.
I don't want to hear this.
Right.
So the regulation
Right.
is just a lot of going. And if
Nice.
I sometimes don't have the time because the person is, the energy is such, there's this, maybe it's getting heated up in my head, I'm like, make that safe
Mm,
space. I actually read about that in psycho-cybernetics, where you create a safe space in your mind. So
mm,
I've literally created this little
mm.
sanctuary, this one happy moment of my life,
Huh.
in France, in this place. There's
Nice.
this beach, there was a cliff, and I've put that in my head, and I'm like,
Mm,
I've actually tried to
nice.
practice this whenever I'm getting angry or triggered. I'm like, safe space. So when I say safe space to
Mm,
myself, I go back into my
nice.
head, breathe, think of that space. It changes my energy as well, because then I don't have the time to
Mm,
go into another room and do the deep breathing. And that time, we just, things are happening.
correct.
So then I'm like, how do I respond? How do I respond? Because
Mm,
I'm human. I'm feeling the trigger or whatever. So
correct.
I'm
Yeah.
training myself even now to go safe space, safe space. So safe space is inside my own
Wow.
head, because that's the only place that I can
Mm, yeah.
go in
Yeah.
and control. Everything
Yeah.
else outside can be
Yeah.
chaotic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So regulation is that.
Mm,
Self-regulation is also like when you don't look for instant gratification. The most successful people, they're more
mm,
for like the delayed gratification. What can I kind of give up right now for the
right.
the, the big picture? I can give up going out for the
Right.
next 3 months if I want to work on creating my
Mm,
program, which is going to impact the world
mm,
and give me what I want ultimately.
mm,
So all of that is
mm,
self-regulation. Like I can go out clubbing till 2 in the morning on a Thursday night, knowing I have a client call in the
mm,
morning and not show up with my best energy, or I can just be like, look, that is just not aligned with what I do.
mm.
And so
Yeah.
self-regulation is so many things, right? Emotional, physical, with
Mm,
everything. So just in a
nice.
small way, that's That's
Beautiful.
how I could explain
Yeah,
regulation, I
yeah.
guess.
Very, very powerful. So interesting. So, I think when it comes, and you mentioned your teacher, and you talked about tapping. The other reason why I am wanting to talk to more people who are healer coaches is so that people become more aware of many different ways in which they can become more present, they can heal, they can look to the future, actually believe that they can have a future, right? So could you share a little bit about, like, what was that journey for you? Like, there was a time when you didn't know there was this thing called EFT, and then you got to know about it, and then it sort of became part of your life, and today it's where it's at, right? So what's that journey like for you?
EFT specifically?
Mm, yeah.
So EFT, so for anybody who doesn't know what emotional freedom technique
Mm,
is, it's also called
mm-hmm,
tapping. So I'm going to just explain that for a
mm,
couple of minutes.
yeah,
So
yeah.
EFT is emotional freedom techniques. So it is a
Mm,
blend of ancient Chinese medicine. So we've got the Eastern side
mm,
and blended with modern psychology. So when I say modern
mm,
psychology, we use exposure therapy, elements of
mm,
CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy,
mm,
and then we also blend in, and the amplifier is the neuroplasticity, the power of neuroplasticity, which is the ability of the
mm,
brain to rewire itself. So now, like all of
mm,
us, when we're born, from the ages of 0 to 7, we're in the theta brainwave state, the hypnotic state. So we're basically like a sponge. We're absorbing everything around us as our reality.
mm,
Our belief system is formed
right.
there from our peers, the media, our
Mm,
caregivers, everyone,
mm,
school, teachers, all of that.
mm,
So we
mm,
have all of that conditioning, and it forms our belief system, our thought patterns, our emotional patterns. Then, of course, we have adverse
mm,
experiences, emotional distress, physical
mm,
distress. All of that causes. So when we don't process that as kids, which I can't blame anybody for because we are not taught that. Emotional regulation
mm,
is not something we were taught. Emotional processing
mm,
isn't something that we were taught
mm,
in school. So
mm,
we shut down as kids. Let's say I got bullied as a child,
mm,
I would learn that it's never safe to speak up. I'd rather be,
right.
shutting myself down in a corner because that's
Mm,
safe. Because the
right.
brain is wired for survival. That's safe for me. Or
Mm,
if I
mm,
if I have abandoned wounds from my childhood or rejection wounds, then it would get amplified. Then I would not want to go and speak on a
mm,
stage when I was, or
mm,
give a presentation in the office. So like, so coming back to EFT, how this ties in is that these techniques are blended with these three things which I just said, where from the ancient
mm,
Chinese standpoint, we're using
mm,
we're tapping with our fingertips on these acupuncture points. That's why it's known
right.
as a form of psychological acupressure, because we have these meridian
Right.
points, and these meridian
Mm,
end points are tied to the meridian system, the energy system in the body, where the
mm,
chi or the
mm,
prana or the life force flows. And when it flows in a beautiful
mm,
way, it's like when there's no traffic jam, your traffic is free
right.
flowing. So our life force is
Right.
free flowing in the body. But when we don't process any of these incidents, and we either shut down or
Mm,
that trauma is trapped there, the energy is basically stuck.
mm,
It's basically stored energy, which
mm,
is not processed, not released. It's caused stagnation. It's caused those
mm,
emotional blocks, and then
mm,
our body starts to manifest illnesses. So a lot of the things that people
mm,
experience, whether it's chronic migraines, chronic aches and pains. So just quickly to give you this
mm,
example, there's this woman. There was a case study of a woman who had knee pain
mm.
for 40 years, and she went to one of these
Wow.
tapping retreats in New York, and she
Mm,
could not
mm,
walk a couple of blocks in the States,
wow.
right? She couldn't walk a couple of blocks because
Mm,
of the thing, and she couldn't
mm,
climb a flight of stairs. She went to one of these tapping
mm,
retreats for 3 days, and then they went back to
mm,
one of her childhood experience. And this is on the internet, so I'm not reaching anybody's privacy. So
mm,
they went back to an incident in her childhood where in her it was her 3-year-old birthday or something, and her dad kind of like made the scene and kind of told her, why were you born, right? So when they tapped
wow.
on each aspect
Mm,
and element, and you know this, that our
mm,
body is a subconscious mind with all our senses, everything that we
mm,
experience
mm,
is what causes that
mm,
emotional block. Because she was a 3-year-old child, she just heard,
mm,
why were you born? And for her, she was like, nobody loves me, daddy doesn't love me, I shouldn't have come into this world. So
mm,
her
mm,
her self concept became, I shouldn't be here. Why am I here? I'm not worthy. I'm not
Wow.
deserving. I shouldn't be
Mm,
alive. And her whole life. And can
mm,
you imagine that kind of stagnation that's caused that knee pain? It's gone and gotten
wow.
stuck in that one part of her body. So when they tapped, when we did,
Mm,
not me, so I'm just saying that this is what happens in tapping. We
mm,
tap on each element,
mm.
we
Yeah.
release the emotional charge from that incident or the experience that you had from the
Mm,
memory. We do not erase the memory because you can
right.
never do that. You will
Mm,
always have the memory. But when you
mm,
think of it, you're not going to feel the
mm.
same, whatever you felt: grief, anger, shame,
Right.
resentment,
Mm,
sadness, frustration.
mm,
So as
mm,
she released the
mm.
emotional charge with the tapping, her knee pain was gone, literally.
Wow.
So it alleviates
Mm,
physical pain in that sense. A lot of people don't understand how tapping can
mm.
help alleviate physical pain.
Right.
So emotional freedom techniques is
Mm.
just that. Basically, you're using modern
Nice.
psychology, exposure therapy, or exposing yourself deliberately to the traumatic experiences, cognitive behavioral therapy
Mm,
elements, NLP influence techniques. That's just the way my I've been trained by my mentor. There's inner child
mm,
healing, there's
mm,
generational trauma healing,
mm,
because a lot of it gets stored down from the DNA, it gets passed down through generations. So even my teacher always talks about how the
mm,
Holocaust survivors, their kids for generations had the same
mm.
feelings, right? Like if somebody's experienced
Right.
famine and drought and like scarcity
Mm,
for like generations, you can feel it
mm.
and you won't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So we kind of,
Mm,
heal that aspect as well. So I hope I haven't lost the flow of
mm.
what you were asking me, but basically,
No, no,
this
no.
is what we
I
do in
love the
tapping.
flow that you've been tapping into.
Okay, yeah, pun intended.
Yeah.
Tapping into, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, pretty much, just in a nutshell,
Yeah.
we're rewiring the brain
Mm,
and choosing
mm,
new thought,
mm,
emotional, behavioral patterns that serve you. You choose
mm,
to be empowered with whatever it is. You unlearn and unblock and release everything that didn't
mm.
serve you. If you had a people pleasing attitude, you were seeking
Right.
external validation and approval. If you,
Mm,
didn't think you were deserving or worthy innately, that's one of the
mm.
biggest things. Like the I am not
Right.
enough, I am not deserving, I'm not worthy.
Right.
So we tap into
Right.
self love, we tap into forgiveness, we tap
Mm,
into acceptance, and
mm,
without the judgment and the resistance. So just saying accepting
mm.
yourself is not gonna work. It's truly being able to
Right.
forgive yourself and all the situations and releasing the emotional charge, and really looking at those incidents as something that now brought you to where you are, and then you come into a more empowered space,
Mm.
and then you choose
Yeah.
a new identity. Literally, you're kind of shifting your identity, which is what
Mm.
happened with me, which is what I do with my clients as well. They show up as more
Yeah.
conscious
Yeah.
parents with their kids. They show
Mm.
up as
Yeah.
more good assertive at their workspaces, so that they're not
Mm.
being
Mm.
taken advantage of because they're not being people pleasers anymore.
Yeah.
They're more empowered and
Yeah. Yeah.
they're choosing
Mm.
their emotional patterns. They're
Mm.
able to see where they can take radical self responsibility for their emotional patterns in their
Mm.
relationships. Hence, they have better
Mm.
relationships as well. So,
Right.
and their health. And like one of my clients actually had a lot of gut issues,
Mm.
and she realized. So, in one of the sessions, I
Mm.
actually asked her, so like, which part of your reality couldn't digest at that point when that incident
Mm.
happened, because we went into her subconscious memory, and it just
Right.
shifted from there, and so her gut issues just got
Right.
better. So that's all stored energy. We're just
Mm.
basically releasing that. Just in a
Mm.
nutshell, I don't know if I lost the flow, but that's pretty much what it is.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. So it's like I won't even summarize, but in essence, you've talked about what is EFT, and what are some of the components of EFT, and why it has relevance to us as human beings, right? Because of who we are, how we're made up, because of our past experiences. What I'm also curious to know is, what was that experience for you when you came across it and it just kind of clicked and you're like, okay, oh wow, okay, okay, this is it,
Oh,
right?
I remember
Like,
this.
what was
Yeah.
that? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this was the Balbon for me. It was the mind body connection. So, I have gone to a lot
Yeah.
of doctors, Rahul. I have taken so many medications, and I
Mm,
wish I had just come across this work and
mm,
understanding energy so much
mm,
earlier in my life. But it's okay. Whatever happened, it did for a reason, because it got me here. But
mm,
I didn't need to take all of those medications and stuff like that, because when I realized that our
mm,
mind and body are connected and it's a soma, that's
mm,
why EFT is a somatic tool, it's body based. When I say somatic, if anybody who doesn't
mm,
know what the word somatic is, it comes from the word soma, that means
mm.
it's body. So it's body based. You're actually using your
Body. Yeah.
body along with your mind.
Mm,
You're
yeah.
verbalizing what you feel,
Yeah.
you're verbalizing the things that happened
Mm,
along with tapping it in the
mm,
body. So that is
mm,
sending calming
mm,
signals to this almond shaped part of your brain, which is the amygdala, which is basically the this is responsible
mm,
for the stress hormone, the fight and flight that turns on. And I lived in fight and flight and freeze most of my life, most
mm,
of my life. And
mm,
I got this
mm,
ball bomb when I watched the master class by my mentor, who I certified with. I didn't know that her
mm,
watching one of her free master classes would lead me to be certified with her when I was
mm.
going through that depression. And we were talking about it, and I was tapping and I was following along, and she was talking about the mind body
Mm,
connection. And I was like, oh my god, you're so right. We go to the doctor and he's like, oh, you have a stomach ache,
mm.
take this pill, or you have pain here, take this. So
Right.
we're not addressing the root cause. You're going on popping pills forever,
Mm,
not really knowing what really
yeah.
has caused it. And I'm not saying this is going to
Mm,
replace medical
mm.
assistance or whatever. This
Exactly.
is first of all a
Mm,
great complementary therapy, plus even otherwise it's energy work. So what I understood was
mm,
I had this gut issue for years, and I did every test possible. I did the endoscopy, I did, like, I don't know, I don't even remember the
mm.
names, something would be like so many tests. And
Wow.
I realized that the doctor kept saying, but I don't know, there's no concrete thing that I can see, so it could be like IBS or whatever, whatever. So then
Mm,
I'm just like, and then my gut started to get better the more and more I tapped, because I was clearing out
mm.
the energetic blockages, and I was
Right.
clearing out the charge. And the
Mm,
bulb on was the mind body connection. That if you just keep
mm,
taking pills, or you have digestive issues, or you have chronic nausea or
mm,
chronic migraines, it's not
mm,
always just something to do with the body. It is something that started in the mind, maybe something that happened in your
mm,
past that you've never cleared out. And the mind and the body are
mm,
connected. And we talk about the gut brain axis, that's a whole different thing, that's not my domain of expertise. But I just know in the healing world that when we
mm,
work as the
mm,
mind body, the holistic way of healing,
mm,
it's something that really works, because you're addressing what happened in the mind, but your body, the soma, has that has held on to
mm.
everything with its senses,
Right.
what you experience. Because that's how it is. Like, say you, like, I remember somebody sharing this incident that they ate a fish when they were 5 years old, and the bone
Mm.
got stuck and they were so uncomfortable, and they're
Wow.
like 40 today and they still don't eat fish because of that. So you see, like, where's the connection?
Wow.
It's the
Yeah, yeah,
mind
yeah.
and the body. The mind has the fear,
Mm,
but the body remembers
mm.
what it felt like. It tasted
Yeah,
funny, or it
true.
felt funny. So the
Yeah,
bulb
yeah,
on
yeah.
for me was a mind body
Mm.
connection. And ever since I discovered that, I look at everything so differently. I look at healing so differently, I look at self
Nice.
healing so differently. And I work on both the aspects. That's why I go into
Mm,
my own beliefs and my own, where did I
mm,
learn this, where did I learn that this was not okay, or
mm.
who gave me this idea,
Nice.
or where did I pick this up from.
Mm,
And then I work on
mm.
the somatic aspect with EFT, and I keep tapping it out, and then I tap the stuff I want in. So both ways
Right.
it works.
Nice. Nice. Beautiful. So, for a moment, we'll take a slight detour
Yeah.
and talk about something that to me, when I finally, like you said, that connection, that, the proverbial penny dropped, right? When I had that, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
For me, especially in the last couple of years, I mean, it's been in my life for at least more than a decade, but when it finally like clicked, right? This is just about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. What I'm talking about is, the power of community, right? So I'd love for you to share, your thoughts, your experiences when it comes to community.
Community in one word is power, honestly. So, we have power within us, but there's
Hmm.
also power and energy that we draw from people, whereas
Hmm.
we're humanly wired to be connected to people. Like,
Hmm.
isolation is not a
Yeah.
thing. We cannot. So even if you work solo, or even if you're doing your healing solo, or you're doing whatever you're doing in your life, community is something that
Yeah.
accelerates
Hmm.
your healing, accelerates your
Hmm.
path to wherever it is that you want to go. So
Hmm.
community
Hmm.
is it's like saying, when we always say, what's that expression, two brains instead of one? Like, I may have blind spots
mm,
when I'm working on a
mm,
certain issue, which
mm,
Rahul, you can see. If we're in
mm,
a community, you can be like, hey, Manchal, that's your blind spot. You're not seeing
right.
this here. You're not being objective because you're way too close to the
Mm,
situation.
mm,
So it's beautiful for me to
yeah.
have that in community. And,
Mm,
you and I are part of a couple of communities together. And I would say that those communities have changed my life. I wouldn't be where I am today
mm,
without being in a community, without being a part of it, without drawing from its energy, without having a safe
mm,
space, without having a shared space,
mm,
without having that connection.
mm,
And even as
mm,
I learned EFT tapping, I had the community, which is what, like, even till today. So my mentor is a busy woman.
mm,
She's off doing her own thing
mm,
around the world, doing the good work she is. But I'm still in
mm,
touch with my tapping
mm,
community. You and I are a part of a couple of communities
right.
in common. And
Mm,
those
mm,
communities, like, maybe you do a course together, maybe you're studying with a mentor, and
mm,
that community has a
mm,
shared set of, let's say,
mm,
beliefs or value system. I'm not even going to say belief, I'm going to say
mm,
a value system, which
mm,
is more important and
yeah,
powerful.
yeah.
So
Mm,
if they're all kind of aligned in that, or even if they're not necessarily, but the fact that they're in that community together, they can draw from each other's
mm,
experiences and um, build
mm,
that, what can I say, like, I think just sometimes, when you're feeling a certain way, and you go to a space with, like, you
mm,
go to a space that there's a bunch of people, like, let's say, meditating. Or for me,
mm,
even going to a temple, I
mm,
go more for the vibration than anything. It's the
right.
energy that's there. So
Mm,
it's
mm,
collective consciousness. It's
mm,
like the people together. So
mm,
for me, community,
right.
I think, is one of the most important things. The fact that you've built your community, like even for iHypnosis, I see how
Mm,
powerful that is, because you, the mentor, is holding a
yeah.
space, safe space, and
Mm,
leading them on their path, and then you're also giving
mm,
them that safe
mm,
space to be together
yeah.
and kind of amplify those learnings by sharing it.
Mm,
And you know everybody there knows what they've
mm,
learned from Rahul George, so they can
yeah.
sit and, like,
Yeah.
you know go into a deeper understanding of what it is, even without
Mm,
you being
mm,
around, when they have their time and space on their own, and
right.
before another
Right.
session with you, for example. And that's just so beautiful, where
Mm,
you're like, this is what I
mm,
understood, and this is what I observed, and this is what I learned. And
nice.
the other person can be like, this
Mm,
is what I got from it. And the whole thing, just,
mm,
I think it's beautiful, it's powerful, in like one
mm,
word. So community,
nice.
yeah, like, I love that you've
Beautiful.
built one,
Mm.
and a powerful one at that. And I
Yeah.
look forward to
Yeah.
building one too. I think
Mm,
I think it's a safe space in today's world also,
mm, yeah.
to go back to
So true.
your shared
So,
and
yeah,
that
yeah,
connection. Yeah.
absolutely. Mm, mm. So, even as I'm listening to you, I think it will really help people, to know like what work you do specifically today, in the sense that, do you do sessions that are one to many, or is it only one to one? And typically, like, if when someone wants to reach out to you, what is it that they can expect to have as an experience when they're with you?
So I've been doing a lot of one to one. So it's more like personalized,
Mm,
deep dive EFT tapping
mm,
sessions, where we work on the
mm,
person's, let's say, we
mm,
go into their unique challenges with their own
mm,
subconscious
mm,
mind. And
mm,
so I've been working one on one with clients, where I've helped them heal themselves. I've been the
mm,
facilitator, I've just been the
mm,
channel and the medium, and they just come
mm,
into a whole new awareness, and they're
mm,
never the same when we finish our sessions. Because a lot of people ask me,
mm,
like, how many
right.
sessions? So there is a lot of
Mm,
self work involved, because you're shifting on an identity level. You're not just coming here to shift
mm,
one aspect. When you come into a new awareness,
true.
then they can shift their relationships, they can shift their career, they can shift their finances, they can
Mm,
shift their health, because
mm,
they are, first of all, making space for new visions to come in, and for a new energy to come in, because we're
mm,
releasing all of the energetic blockages.
mm,
So it's literally, I
mm,
always give this example: when you're opening a tap which was blocked, you're always going to
mm,
have the gunk come out first. So you can either be like,
correct.
let's shut the tap right now, I don't want to look at the gunk. But then when you need the clean water,
Mm,
eventually you're going to have to let
yeah,
that gunk come out for as long as it
true,
needs to come out, for the clean water to finally
true.
come out. So healing is kind of
Mm.
just like that. That's what we do in our sessions. And
Nice.
when they come to the clear water
Mm.
space, when they come to the clearer space, they have clarity of who they are. They're tapping into self-love. They're able
Mm.
to let go of those limiting thought patterns and beliefs of, I'm not good enough, or the
Mm.
people pleasing, or seeking external validation, or
Mm.
just taking radical self-responsibility of where they were showing up a certain way in their relationships. And
Mm.
it's interesting that you asked me if I'm working with groups, because I do plan to do launch a
Nice.
membership soon as well, where
Mm.
I am
Mm.
taking people on a journey through different, where we do
Mm.
EFT tapping sessions, deep dive sessions on each area of their life. So we will,
Mm.
each week meet up for like a couple of hours and tap on one aspect, one topic of
Mm.
life area.
Mm.
First, we'll do the healing. We'll make space, like I said, clear the gunk out, and then we'll go into health, and we'll figure out where people have picked up beliefs. I picked up limiting beliefs about my health as a kid as well. So like I realized that when I was sick, I would
Mm.
get more attention from my parents. So it also
Right.
became something where you realize that, you see something as,
Mm.
hey, being sick is a good thing. If you're ill, that means your parents are around
Mm.
you more. So, like we go
Mm.
into these kind of things in the subconscious. So
Yeah.
I do plan to
Yeah.
host the membership soon. I have a
Mm.
Facebook group, which I just launched 4 days
Mm.
ago. It's a free
Nice.
community for
Congrats.
anybody who wants to join.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's
Nice.
there. The
Yeah.
free
And I will
communities.
be. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm saying I will be, since you talked about the group, I will be at the bottom of this in the um, sort of like the drop down box in, when it's up on YouTube, you will be able to see Manchal's link, so you can definitely join her. I think there's a link to your one-to-ones. There's a link to also the various handles, your Insta
Yeah.
and YouTube, and also Facebook, right? So
The free
definitely,
community. Yeah. The group.
yeah, so definitely click on those links, and as they say in today's day and age, it's like go and show Mancha love online. So go to these places and follow her, and it's like, subscribe, and share, because I think this is really why and where what we're doing is so powerful, in that you never know who gets this link. Especially for those of you who are watching this, it's like you share this with somebody who you think, yeah, I know that person will benefit from what Manchal just said. That in itself creates that ripple effect. So maybe in the moment, it's, you may feel okay, good to know, but it's not connecting with me. But if you think of somebody, as you've been listening, and you're like, yeah, I know my aunt or my relative or someone I work with, I know that they will benefit from just getting to hear what Manchal has said. That's, quite often that's all that is required, where you just share it, and at the right time, it's like that, what is that expression, samajhdar ko ishara kafi hai. And sometimes it's not even samajhdar, it's just time and place, that just like how you talked about when you found your mentor on a master class, right? It wasn't some planned thing, it just kind of happened. And when it happened, it's like one thing led to another. And it's like now you're in that space where, think of the multitude that are being benefited by you being more of who you are. So just a reminder, to those of you who are watching this, that definitely check out, follow, share, because this is how the world gets more whole every day. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Thank you.
so that was beautiful. In fact, listening to you, like I said, Manchal, these podcast episodes are not the standard kind, in the sense that uh, I had this aha somewhere towards the end of last year, before I started rolling it out this year, to create this space for people to get to know about more people like you, like us, right? That was one reason. The other is, it's like, this is a perfect way to hang out, and I get to know more about you and your story. And sometimes these ideas just kind of like click, because as you were saying, when I was asking about community and how you had these experiences, one of the sort of, like, you can call it a vision, I guess, because I mean, I literally saw it as you were speaking. It's like, um, it's almost like a community hall event, so to speak, where it's like every month there are people that just come together, and the people that are there to receive, because they, let's say, they connect with our vibration or they know us from before, but they in one moment get to experience different forms, right? Whether it's tapping, whether it's, you know, hypnosis, whether it's reiki, body work, whatever it is that, you know, that people are practicing. Because for me also, I'm looking at people who are really tuned into what they're doing, to the point where, like you said, now it's more the being than the I am a you know, a I'm a dash, meaning I'm a, you know, because you can tell when people are just doing it as a, okay, I'm a coach, right, which is like a doing thing, versus where you've transcended that label and you're truly able to just be present with the person or that group of people that are in front of you, you know. So to me, it's like the, you know, like the curator of
Embodiment.
yeah, and curator of people who are that embodiment, right?
Yes,
For me, it's
absolutely.
like that's my mega community that I'm in my mind I'm already building, which is, you know, I want to have people around me more like, you know, like how we have had experiences to get to where we are today,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
To me, that is like the, whether you call it the, what was that, the Avengers, or, you know, however you want
Transformers.
to frame it, it's like basically it's like
Yeah.
people who are no longer seeing, they are no longer that old identity, which was all about
Yes.
being lost, being kind of just going through the motions,
Victim
you
of
know,
life. Yeah.
being a victim of life, or just being, you know, just like
Not
not
having the direction, like you said.
not having direction, not yet asking those scary questions, you know, like the one, like, why am I here, you know, what am I supposed to be really doing, right? These are the questions that keep most of us up at night. They used to at one point, but today, because we've done the work, now it's like you're at that point where, sure, there will be things that happen in our lives that kind of make us question or think or wonder the why me, you know, I'm not a bad person, I'm doing so
Yeah.
much of good, so why am I still being tested?
Yeah.
But it's like today, it does not uh, rattle us like it would, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? So for me, that's like my private, but now not so private conspiracy to, you know, to find people that have that kind of mindset, attitude, outlook to life, and who have the skills as well, because then you're able to do something rather than just you know, like in the old days, you had the, what was that, your what are they called, motivational speakers, right, like
Yeah.
from the 80s and maybe even the
Yeah.
90s, where it was just your energy and that was it, and people didn't know, okay, how do I become like you? There's no clear path. Versus here, it's like there are very specific tools, there are very specific, almost like blueprints, like literally saying, oh, you want that, this is how you do it, you know. So
Yeah.
that's my
Like a
my
path.
uh yeah, right. So it's like that's my conspiracy of like the, it's like my secret, not so secret plan of, you know, letting more people out there in the world get to know about people like us, right?
I always say,
So
like, just to add, Rahul, I don't mean to
mm-hmm,
cut you off, just to add to what you
no, no, no,
quickly
not
said
at all.
is it's
Yeah.
literally like having like how we all have a first aid kit at home. Like when you get a little
Hmm.
cut or a burn or whatever, you've
Hmm.
got your things ready,
Hmm.
what you have to put on. And like people like us, you're into hypnosis, I'm into EFT, and then we know people who are doing Reiki and different
Yeah.
body work
Yeah.
and whatever.
Yeah.
The more tools,
Yeah.
like for me, I'm always happy to add more tools to my toolkit. Like the first aid kit, I have my
Yeah.
toolkit. So I'm like, if
Yeah.
I'm anxious, what can I use? If I'm depressed, what can I use? How can I change my emotional state quickly? How can I
Yeah.
regulate? How can I come
Yeah.
back into my power? Let's say, how can I
Yeah.
take my power
Yeah.
back where it belongs
Exactly.
than giving it
Yeah.
away? So
Yeah.
that's what I just love what you just said. Like when you said conspiracy, I said like the same thing when I say it's my personal toolkit, my toolbox, where I'm like, let's
Right.
add more. I want to learn the
Yeah.
NLP. I want to learn this. I
Yeah.
want to add on this. Where I
Yeah.
know, like, whenever I'm in a situation, it doesn't mean that people like you and I don't face like you said,
Oh
adversities or
yeah.
challenges. And it's the only
Mm,
thing is that what differentiates is when we are experiencing these adversities, we have these tools to help us out
exactly.
of them. We don't have to
Exactly.
go into fight and flight and freeze and get stuck
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
forever and
Yeah.
not be directionless, like don't know
Mm,
where to go from here kind of thing.
mm,
So I think it's like
yeah.
taking your power back. That's what empowerment is all about, pretty much.
Mm,
That's what
yeah. I mean,
transformation
I
really is. So
exactly, like when I read your write up, and then when I sort of like reframe that, it's like the word empowerment. That's the reason also why it's there in the title. Like it's like it's not like how in a company they say, we are into empowerment or whatever, where it sounds very sort of lofty. This is in the truest sense, like what you're doing, you know because of how you're doing it and what you're using, that it is actually creating that feeling, that spirit, that sense of empowerment in the other person. I think that is what makes this so real, right?
yeah.
So yeah, I just to close that loop for the moment, it's the details will be there, when you click below this, the live, or even when this is edited, and you can see it as a podcast. So definitely reach out, and we will be doing a couple of shorts as well, so you can find us there, and get to know more about what Manchal is doing. So so I'm actually curious, okay, because like you mentioned hypnosis, and at the beginning of this pod you talked about NLP. I'm curious because, of course, for those of you that know my story, that NLP is a major part of my journey to get to
Yeah.
where I am today and what I do and how I do it. But that's one of my questions that I always ask my guests, and I'm asking you now, Manchal. It's like, what was your journey? What was your experience of NLP? I know you mentioned this was quite a while back from what I remember at the beginning of your story, but if you could just walk us through, like, what was that for you then, and how do you see it today?
Like I said, can you imagine? It stayed in my memory for 19 years,
Yeah,
something that he taught
yeah.
us in the workshop. And obviously, I don't remember the words that were spoken, but just that technique. Like, I think it was
Mm,
a pain reduction technique. I could be
mm,
wrong, possibly, but like something that we were
mm,
projecting on a movie screen, and then we were making the movie
mm,
screen smaller. And it was,
mm.
and even like back then, I know I was like an 18 or a 19-year-old, but I was like neuro linguistic programming. Are you telling me I have the power? Are you telling me I can choose
Wow.
to use the
Mm,
neuro linking? Like I can use my brain and the languaging, and
right.
literally change how I feel in the moment and perceive reality. And
Mm,
um, you know I never use the word control. I don't like that, but like perceive things differently. Like it's all
mm,
about the perception, right? And how I
mm,
can alter that state of reality, even if it's in my mind, which will
mm,
obviously we know about the electromagnetic field, because we are magnets,
mm,
we're living magnets. There's heart coherence
mm,
and brain coherence for a reason. We're all emitting that
mm,
electricity. And like if we're able to change our state with NLP using neuro linking, I
mm,
mean neuro linguistic programming,
mm,
then
mm,
we are strengthening that energetic field. And then there's more. Like I know manifestation is tied in a very big way to NLP. We have disassociation techniques,
mm,
which
mm.
changes our perception. It changes how we just perceive our whole, like, oh my god, I'm in this pain and this is so painful. And suddenly it's like, hey, wait a second,
Right.
I can look at it like this. And that's so
Mm,
much more empowering. And like
mm,
I get very animated when I talk about it, because I remember how profound of an experience it was. And there is a couple
right.
of NLP based influences, because my mentor Jennifer Partridge, she trained with Tony
Mm.
Robbins. So she
Ah, okay.
also did some
Right.
future
Mm,
pacing and also
mm,
intensity, like where with the client we're intensifying their
right.
pain to the extent,
Right.
and we're showing them the future, and we're like building it up with
Mm,
50% and 100% and
mm,
150%. And then they're just like, wait a minute, nope, that's not what I want. I know what I want.
right.
I'm not going there.
Right.
I'm not holding on to that resentment. I'm not holding on to that anger. I'm not holding on to that
Mm,
bitterness. I am ready to come back into my
mm,
power now. So
mm,
I forgive and I let go, and I'm taking it all
mm,
back, and I'm coming into a more coherent space. So neurolinking,
mm.
I'm sorry, I keep saying neurolinking for some reason, but yeah, neuro NLP I think
You're
is
not
one
too
of
far from
the
the truth, by the way.
superpowers. Yeah,
Linking
yeah,
is really
yes. So, but
right.
I
The
remember that
associations.
workshop, and I remember this.
Mm,
It's powerful stuff. Like, I want to
right.
be trained by Ashlesh Rao again, like do the whole
Mm,
certification, because
yeah,
I know I
of
did like
course,
the
of
little
course.
workshop.
Mm,
And of course, like, I'd love to learn from you as well. So it's all there. Like, it's one
mm,
of those tools that I definitely want to add to my box
mm,
and be certified. So
yeah, yeah.
NLP is amazing, and I've seen the kind of work you've done.
Mm,
Like, I think you led me through a little thing, like, I think
mm,
once a while ago when we
mm,
met, and it
yeah,
was what was the that was the hypnotic forest, wasn't it?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting you said the hypnotic forest. Uh, and it's funny how these things happen, because when you were talking earlier, I was tempted to say what I was about to say then, but now it's like the perfect timing, um, which you kind of created unconsciously. Like, you didn't obviously know the name for it, but basically it's like when you remember that time. uh, I think you mentioned when you were in Paris, right? Your safe space that you called it, right?
In France, yeah. South
In
of France,
France,
yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So in hypnosis, one of the references is where you can create a sanctuary,
Right.
right? So you literally, like, like you've linked a real experience of being in a
Yes.
sanctuary. In this case, it was literally in the south of France. There's a certain feeling that you associate with it, that, so whether you call it anchoring it, but in the context of hypnosis, you've actually, you've remembered a real sanctuary that does something to you, that changes your physiology, and the moment you're
Yes.
there, you're not here anymore. So whatever was, bothering you about maybe the past or about the future, is like you've literally switched your state in an instant,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
So it's really fascinating, like listening to your story, and the the experiences that you've had, and how you have kind of, you know used the energy of your life, and sort of like run it through um, this medium, right? So it's not about saying, oh, like you said, it's not about trying to have amnesia or forget, but instead, it's really about how you've redirected it into your own life, and
Yeah.
now through your own life. So you are literally that example for other people to say, okay, yeah, you know what, maybe even I can have what Manchal has. So that really does make it really, really powerful. Um, so
Just one last thing
is
though. You
there
said NLP, and I cannot believe I didn't mention this experience. My first experience with NLP without knowing it was what it was we were doing was when I was in
uh-huh,
college and we were doing a theater workshop. I was a part of a lot of theater
uh,
plays, and
uh,
my director, his name is Vinod Ravindran. His name
okay,
is Vinod Ravindran. I'm pretty sure he's out there somewhere if
ah,
he's ever watching this.
uh,
He made us do these connection activities with the other
mm,
theater, what are they called, our colleagues.
mm,
When we were doing the prep work, we would do a lot of body
mm,
centering exercises, and like
mm.
he would, there was this one exercise, and later I found out it was NLP because he's into NLP. And it's funny because
Right.
you're talking about it today, and I'm remembering this after years. I was 18 or 19 or
Mm,
something. Maybe
mm,
that's what inspired me to do the workshop. I don't even remember, but he was like, I
mm,
want you to climb this mountain, like
mm,
imaginary mountain. And
mm.
these were exercises for us to be connected as a team, because when you come on stage as a
Mm.
team, you're on what cues, you're on like your energetic cues, because one person's
Yeah.
supposed to get out of the stage, one person's supposed to come on, you're supposed to cry at a certain
Mm.
moment when something happens,
Mm.
even though,
Mm.
so you have to anchor all those feelings in, and he
Yeah.
was making us
Yeah.
do the team exercises before that to connect as a team. And
Mm.
NLP was one
Mm.
of the things he used. So if you're saying,
Mm.
look how powerful it is, I'm 38 today and I remember it as though it was
Yeah.
yesterday. I was on the ground in my
Yeah.
college in the basement, and I was on my fours, and he was like, climb this mountain. This mountain is yay
Mm.
high. He described the whole mountain. He painted that real picture for me. And he was like,
Mm.
you're not sweating, so you're not climbing the mountain. I was like, excuse me. He was like, you're not sweating, and I'm like, okay, so I am supposed to really feel like I'm climbing this mountain. That's how
Yeah,
real it gets.
yeah, yeah,
That's how into it you get, and you change your
yeah,
state. So he's like, if you're
yeah.
sweating, that means you're climbing that mountain. I'm not convinced. I'm not
Mm,
convinced that you're climbing the mountain.
right,
So he was using all of this
right.
NLP work, and I was just like it's powerful. Like it's making me want
Mm,
to go and learn right now.
mm.
So yeah, just one of those things
Amazing.
that I just had to
Yeah,
share.
yeah, yeah. No, it's beautiful
That's how
because
real it gets.
yeah, exactly. And I'm saying this also because like my journey with NLP began, like at this point about 17 years ago, right? And in those days when I found it, stumbled onto it, and I started to kind of go deeper and deeper into it. Um, you know, the, this is like saying, more than a decade and a half ago, the environment was very different. Like the context or the concept of coaching was non-existent, right, as compared to the way things are today, right, and especially post
Yeah.
COVID. So
Yes.
for the longest time, I've always known about the power. I've always seen it in the workshops that I attended. Seeing my mentor like literally exemplifying what it means to be it, right? um, but it was in those days, for me it was pretty difficult to find more believers, to find people who actually spoke like how you've been sharing today, right? And but having said all that, I've always known that there is something in this, and this is literally something that I could do for the rest of my life. I could teach for the rest of my life. So that's one of the reasons why I always make it a point to ask, because consciously or unconsciously, in the work that we're doing, you would have probably had this experience of tapping into the power of NLP. Of course, in some senses, it's like if you've heard of Tony Robbins, if you've attended any of his programs, you've definitely experienced NLP. Or of course, if you actually been for a NLP program. So I'm right now, in fact, we just launched batch one in April, and at this point, we're like slowly starting to wrap up the level two of the first batch, and we will be doing the second batch starting in April in August. So for me, hearing you say this, it further strengthens the belief that like people really do need this. And of course, I do understand that when you tell people what they need, you had these experience, I'm sure. When you tell people what they need, they tend to walk in the opposite direction, right? So it's more about giving them what they want, but using the power of and for me, it's like the brand is called iHypnosys, so it's the best of hypnosis and NLP that I have drawn over the last, like literally the last 17 years of my experiences. So that is also something that is definitely on the table. And so for people that are watching, um, if this is something that interests you, there is a link. You can click on it and join the group and ask more questions about like how can it help you, whether you're a coach, whether you're somebody who is maybe you are employed and you're thinking about coaching, or maybe you're somebody who is just a student like we've all been of personal development, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. Having said all of that, of course, Manchal, I would like to ask you a question now, more in the context of like, uh, how would you describe, or what would describe like, an amazing client for you? Like, yeah, these are, these people really get you. These people, it's like you can, you can work your miracles with a certain type of people, right? So who would be that kind that you have come across so far on your journey?
Beautiful question. Before I answer that, I would love to say this. Rahul hasn't asked me to say this. I'm saying it on my own. If you are lucky enough to be in one of his containers and experience his energy and his magic, I would just egg you on to do that. he's doing another certification in June. We're pretty much at the end of May, and if you happen to find this before that, totally coming from me, I have just experienced being in his energy, and I think that itself is powerful. And NLP, I can go on and on. Like, if you're getting a chance to learn from somebody like Rahul, I think you should just jump on it. So I
Wow.
hope a lot of people
Thank you.
get to experience your magic and energy in the certification.
Thank you. Thank you.
So so yeah, the dream client honestly would be somebody who understands, like you said, people don't know what they need yet, but
Mm,
radical self responsibility, somebody who places the
mm,
responsibility of their transformation within themselves and sees the coach as
mm,
somebody who can take them there rather than like, that's why when I also take on one-on-one clients, sometimes I'm not
mm,
always going to be able to say yes to everybody, because
mm,
you know, it happens like people like you and me who've been studying personal development, invested thousands of dollars in our own
mm.
healing and learning and
Yeah.
transformation.
Mm,
And there's a point where you realize that that magic is always in you, and these are catalysts,
mm,
these are mediums where you're doing this course, you're hiring this coach, you're working with this mentor, they're all amazing, but finally nobody is going to come inside and feel what you feel, or be able to shift
mm.
how you feel. They're not going to be able to do that
Correct.
for you. They're going to teach
Correct.
you how to do it, and it's
Mm,
going to be up to you to actually do it. So it's literally like you this is energy. How do I shift my own energy and frequency? Yes, I can
mm,
benefit from your presence as a coach. I can totally absorb and learn everything that you're teaching me, but if I actually don't do the work, then
mm.
I'm not going to get the results. Literally, I'm not going
Yeah.
to. So it's, I always give this example to people, is like, if you're hiring a personal trainer, and let's say you're paying that personal
Mm,
trainer a lakh a month, and he's giving you a nutrition plan, he's giving you a diet plan, and he's saying, come to me four
mm,
times a week, we're gonna, personally, I'm gonna check your posture and train you.
mm,
And you go home and you eat like a million bags of chips and ice creams every single day, and you binge and you're drinking and you're showing up four times to the gym. You cannot place the responsibility on him and say, hey, you know what,
mm,
why am I not any different from when I started with you? Because
mm.
you're not doing what he's giving you. The path, he's showing you what you're supposed to
Mm.
do, the rest is for
Yeah.
you to do it. He's not going to be able to
Mm,
control what you do in your spare time once you
mm.
go home, once you
Yeah.
finish your session.
Mm,
So for me,
mm,
a client that like my dream client, be somebody, um, not to put this in a, it's not coming from an arrogant space, but when I needed
mm,
help, I knew I needed help. I knew I was in that space where I
mm,
was like, I want to change, I want to do this,
mm,
this is not who I want to be anymore. And I was ready to do the work no matter how uncomfortable
mm,
it got. It wasn't like, I
mm,
wasn't like, this program, if it doesn't change my life, this program is terrible, this course is terrible, this coach is terrible.
mm,
I came into that space where I was like, it's my responsibility. If something didn't work for me, how come it didn't work for me?
mm.
Why didn't it work for me?
Right.
Where was the gap? What can I fill it in?
Mm,
So a client who I would love to work with would be somebody who understands that I can give them all the tools, I can hold their
mm,
hand, I can show them the
mm,
path, but walking the path will have to be done
mm.
by them.
Nice.
So I think that would be somebody I would love and like
Mm,
enjoy working with. And I
mm,
have had a few clients who just like, I give them like an alignment tracker, like an emotional alignment tracker,
mm,
where they
mm,
tied to what they're experiencing. We do things like that.
mm, mm,
And there's clients, and we do a transformation tracker where they write down their
mm.
shifts, their mindset shifts, their
Right.
spiritual gifts. And there are
Yeah.
clients
Yeah.
who are just like, I am all in, I am doing this,
Mm,
I want to be
yeah.
the person I came here to be, the reason I'm
Mm,
investing in this coaching with you.
mm,
And that's the kind of client that I love working with. I'm here to help,
yeah.
but so long as you
Yeah.
don't place the responsibility on me for your transformation, because it will
Yeah.
come from
Yeah.
you at the end of the day.
Mm,
So yeah, I guess that's what it is.
mm. It I love that because it sounds like basically you're talking about people who are either by nature or by circumstance, as they say, now at that point where they're like, I'm all in, right? I've
Yeah.
maybe gone the opposite direction for a while. I've, sort of dabbled from time to time, but now I'm at this point when I'm meeting you where I'm all in. I'm like done with uh, it works, it doesn't work, or somebody else will, it's somebody else's responsibility versus now I'm all in. and I will do whatever it takes. And you, as my guide, you get to, help me do that with things that are unique to you, right? So, and I think that that's so important, especially when it is one-to-one work. It's sort of like saying when people do the group work, you can still kind of hide like we did when we were in school, backbenchers and front benchers, and
Yeah.
sort of like an 80-20, right? You will, as a group, there will be that 80-20 energy. Again,
Yes.
it's just
Absolutely.
weird, but it happens, right? But when it's one-to-one, that's it. You may have 80-20 days, but it's still that one person. So I think
Yeah.
it is so important that it's that all in person that shows up and is like, yeah, you know what, I'm ready to go. So I can definitely say, Manchal, it's like, may those that are listening, remember and say, oh yeah, I know who Manchal will like. I know Manchal will be able to help this person. And I'm sure you've had this experience. It's like when you're learning a program, let's say for the first time, right? Whether maybe when you were learning EFT, or I remember when I was doing the Vipassana program. It's just strange how our minds work. It's like, when you get to that point where you have benefited, in your mind somewhere you're already thinking of like three other people who, it's like, oh, they should know about this, or they should get this, right? So my intent and my intention is that, more people have that experience as they've been listening to you, your story, and what you do, your superpowers. And truly, two things, of course. One is, wishing you all the best on this journey. The second, of course, is, like I said, the in the moment I was inspired, and I kind of had this vision which we'll talk more about, and I'm sure we'll kind of, develop it in the time to come, and make uh, these powers of the non-conscious more available and more conscious to people out there, right? So that's definitely something that I know you and I will be talking more of. um, so yeah, I
Are you
guess
still
as
there,
we
Rahul?
start. Yeah, I am there. That's why I said this. Sometimes the app can be a little fidgety.
Yeah, I just lost
uh,
you for a second there, but I hear you now. Yeah.
right? So of course, when you watch the recording towards the end, it was all good things, and basically, reminding people that to reach out to you, and to truly benefit from all that you have to offer. And as we are wrapping, one question: is there something that you'd like to, to share with people? Maybe it's like your life's philosophy, or maybe like a hack, anything that you feel that, yeah, is like what you feel drawn to saying, okay, this is for you.
Yeah, so kind of like my parting message. Another thing to just
Mm,
say was even group energy, Rahul, since we were talking about community, and we've done a lot of group courses as well. One to one is one thing. Sometimes
mm,
a one to one investment can be a little high for somebody, but even a group course, I feel like it's what you can take out of it. You can benefit
mm,
a lot even from a group container if you make it what it can be for you, because a coach is still
mm,
holding that space, and
mm,
coaches have invested in themselves and their learnings enough to be able to hold that kind of powerful space and
mm,
container. And if you
mm,
are there to get what you want to receive, you will even get it from a group, to be honest. And if
mm,
you can't do the one, that's not the only way. So I feel like it's about being open with the energy that you come in, and it's also about
mm,
absorbing and being able to embody
mm,
information, because information is all over. You have the internet,
mm.
you don't need a coach, but
Yeah.
when you get into a container with a coach, even if it's a group, just listen and embody. That will change
Mm,
everything for you.
yeah.
Really be like, who can I be with this
Mm,
information? What can I be? And
mm,
really loving and empowering yourself is something that I always say as like a
mm,
tagline, if you sort of speak, is
mm,
because I realize that that's something that nobody will ever do for you. I mean, not to
mm,
get into that philosophy, but like we do come in alone on this earth plane and we do leave alone.
mm.
So in that sense,
Yep.
if you don't choose to love and empower yourself, you can't wait for another person to come and
mm,
make you feel that feeling of love and empowerment,
right.
because it will
Yeah.
always be here and you can tap into it from
Mm,
here. And that's the
mm,
first place it starts with, and that's where it expands from as well.
mm.
So choose to do that for yourself. Don't
Mm.
wait for somebody to do that for you, because they may or
Nice.
may never be, but that will never give you the kind of love and empowerment that you deserve
Mm.
and should emanate from within, because that can be your
Nice.
power. And you can tap
Mm.
into it because it lives within you and
Mm.
inside of you. So I guess that's just what I wanted to say. And learn how to learn I learn how to regulate your emotions and take your
Mm.
power back where it belongs. Don't give your power
Right.
away to anybody and everybody out there on the street to let you get angry, have a bad mood for the rest of the day, rest of the week, affect your week,
Mm.
affect your month, affect your year, because the power
Right.
truly is within you, and that's
Mm.
where it belongs.
Nice. Awesome. So, wish you many, many, many more people that find you in exactly the right moment when you are meant to be in their life, and that they be all in with you, as I know you are all in with them. And as I
Thank
said
you.
at the beginning, to close that loop, thank you for literally just kind of like wafting through my consciousness, and reminding me that it was time to restart the podcast. And I mean, one is, of course, I personally truly enjoy this experience, and I know that this is a shared experience, and that people for literally for years and years will get to listen to. So thank you. And I'm definitely looking forward to our conversations. And oh yeah, one, it's like, that one little trivia question that you may never have been able to make that connection to, for those of you who are listening and watching. um, we also connected on playing squash, so we are like quasi squash buddies as well. So
True. True
uh,
that.
so that is, of course, a conversation for a different time. We met the first time to play squash, but we, I think, jibber jabbered for about 2 hours before we even like stepped to the squash court.
Squash
So
court. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this is truly why it's like the power of community, the power of like like-minded people meeting. So wish you all the best. And I know I will be hearing of really amazing ahas and transformations that people have as they live truly empowered lives. Right. So all the
Absolutely.
best,
And thank you. Your
and
presence
thank
has
you.
enriched my life. I know that we're connected for a reason, and I do believe that the universe has connected me with you and people that I value, because they enrich my
Mm,
life in ways.
mm,
So thank you for that, and thank you for
beautiful.
having me here today.
Nice, nice, awesome. So what I will do, this is sort of customary, I will for a moment go to the YouTube link and just end that stream now. And this is sort of like a little extra bonus